In a move that shocked many on both sides of the border, Canada made the unprecedented decision to restrict U.S. land access to Alaska. For decades, this border had been little more than a formality, a place where neighbors exchanged greetings and travelers passed freely, barely noticing the invisible line that separated two friendly nations. Suddenly, that openness vanished overnight. The abrupt closure ended years of seamless travel, upending the daily routines of thousands who relied on the border for work, family, and commerce. Communities that once thrived on cross-border connections found themselves isolated, with families separated and local businesses struggling to survive. The silence at the border crossings was a stark contrast to the usual bustle, a reminder of how quickly life can change. The border, once a symbol of enduring friendship and cooperation, was transformed almost overnight into a line of control and uncertainty. This forced Alaskans and Canadians alike to reevaluate not just their travel plans, but the very nature of their relationship. For Alaska, the closure highlighted just how dependent the state is on its connection through Canada to the rest of the United States. The decision was driven by a global health crisis that swept across continents, underscoring the immense power of national sovereignty. Governments acted swiftly to protect their citizens, even when it meant disrupting vital partnerships and long-standing agreements. The pandemic made it clear that, in times of crisis, even the closest allies must sometimes put their own interests first. For Alaskans, the closure was a stark reminder of their state's unique geographic isolation. With no direct road to the rest of the U.S. except through Canada, the border's closure exposed just how vulnerable Alaska is to decisions made far away. Everyday life, from receiving supplies to visiting loved ones, suddenly became much more complicated, and the sense of isolation grew. The Trump administration, which had long focused its attention on the southern border, now faced an unexpected and complex challenge from the north. The closure forced American officials to confront the reality that border security and international cooperation are issues that affect the entire country, not just one region. The closure exposed significant vulnerabilities in American logistics and supply chains. Essential goods, medical supplies, and food shipments were delayed or rerouted, forcing both nations to reconsider their strategic dependencies. The disruption served as a wake-up call about the importance of maintaining resilient and flexible infrastructure. The sight of a closed border, once unthinkable, became a powerful symbol of a world in crisis. It highlighted how quickly even the most stable and friendly relationships can be tested by unforeseen events. The empty checkpoints and warning signs were a visual reminder of the fragility of international ties. For Alaska, this was more than just a temporary inconvenience. It was a wake-up call about the critical importance of its ties to Canada. The experience left many wondering how to better prepare for future disruptions and how to strengthen the bonds that connect communities across borders, no matter what challenges may arise. Canada's decision to restrict non-essential travel was rooted in one priority: public health. As COVID-19 spread rapidly, Canada saw the U.S. case numbers rise and acted to protect its population. The restrictions, coordinated with U.S. authorities, targeted tourism and recreation while allowing essential goods and workers to cross. The policy was flexible, reviewed every 30 days, and adapted as the pandemic evolved. By keeping supply chains open, both countries balanced health with economic necessity. Leaders emphasized that these were temporary, science-driven measures, not punitive actions. The message was clear: protecting citizens came first, even if it meant significant disruption. For Alaskan border towns like Hyder and Skagway, the closure was more than an inconvenience. It was a crisis. These communities rely on Canadian roads for supplies, medical care, and daily life. Suddenly, their lifelines were severed by a decision made far away. Residents faced immediate challenges. Access to groceries, fuel, and emergency services became complicated overnight. Local leaders scrambled to negotiate exemptions, eventually securing limited access for essential needs. The situation exposed the disconnect between national policy and local reality. Families were separated, and the social fabric of these cross-border communities was strained. The experience underscored just how dependent these towns are on their Canadian neighbors. Alaska and Canada's economies are tightly linked, a fact made clear by the border restrictions. Alaska depends on Canada for transit and key goods, while while Canadian towns rely on Alaskan markets. The Alaska Highway is vital, but most imports arrive by sea, providing some resilience. Still, any disruption to land routes increases costs and complicates logistics for both sides. The situation highlighted the need for cooperation and efficient border processes. Leaders on both sides pushed for dialogue over punitive measures, recognizing their shared economic fate. The crisis was a stress test, revealing both strengths and vulnerabilities in the regional supply chain. Trade tensions between the US and Canada flared during the border restrictions, casting a shadow over what had long been a relatively open and cooperative boundary. The usually smooth flow of goods and people was suddenly disrupted, and uncertainty rippled through both nations. For decades, the border had symbolized partnership, but now it became a flashpoint for economic and political friction. The imposition of tariffs on steel and aluminum by the US government ignited a heated debate, with Canadian officials quickly considering their own countermeasures. Among the most talked about responses was the idea of imposing retaliatory tolls on the Alaska Highway, a vital artery connecting Alaska to the rest of the United States through Canada. This proposal sent shockwaves through communities that rely on the highway for everything from food supplies to family visits. The idea of tolls, though never implemented, was a political bargaining chip rather than a practical solution. It was wielded in negotiations as a symbol of leverage, a way to show that Canada had options to push back against US policies. Behind closed doors, officials weighed the economic impact such a move could have on both sides of the border. Alaskan leaders argued passionately that their state shouldn't be caught in the crossfire of federal disputes. They pointed out that Alaska's unique geography makes it especially vulnerable to disruptions in cross-border travel and trade. Local officials and residents voiced their concerns at community meetings, urging federal representatives to find a peaceful resolution. They called for de-escalation and emphasized the long history of regional cooperation. For generations, Alaskans and Canadians have worked together on everything from emergency response to environmental protection, and many feared that political posturing could erode this spirit of collaboration. The episode underscored Alaska's vulnerability and the importance of strong provincial relationships. It was a stark reminder that, in times of international tension, remote regions like Alaska can feel the effects most acutely, relying on goodwill and open borders to maintain their way of life. While federal governments postured and debated, it was the local communities, small towns, business owners, and families who bore the brunt of uncertainty. Everyday life was tinged with anxiety as people wondered whether their livelihoods and connections would be disrupted by decisions made far away. The threat of tolls served as a powerful reminder of how quickly politics can impact daily life in Alaska. It highlighted the delicate balance between national interests and local realities, and the need for thoughtful diplomacy to protect the well-being of those living at the edge of international borders. The Alaska Highway is more than just a stretch of pavement winding through the wilderness. It's a vital strategic lifeline for both the United States and Alaska. This remote road, cutting through vast forests and rugged terrain, serves as the main artery for people, goods, and essential supplies traveling to and from Alaska. For many communities, it's the only reliable link to the outside world, making it indispensable for daily life and emergency response. Built at breakneck speed during World War II, the Alaska Highway was a monumental engineering feat, designed to ensure military access and supply lines in a time of global conflict. Today, it remains the only year-round land route connecting Alaska to the lower 48 states, underscoring its ongoing strategic importance for both defense and civilian needs. Any disruption to this route, whether caused by political tensions, border disputes, or natural disasters like landslides and blizzards, can have immediate and far-reaching consequences. Such interruptions threaten not only the flow of commerce and essential goods, but also the security and well-being of those who depend on the highway. Recent border closures and threats of imposing tolls have thrust this corridor into the national spotlight, exposing just how much America relies on the uninterrupted passage through Canadian territory. The situation has sparked debate and concern among policymakers, businesses, and residents alike. In response, there have been urgent calls for increased investment in infrastructure, as well as renewed diplomatic efforts to ensure the highway's reliability. Both governments recognize that maintaining this route is not just a matter of convenience, but a necessity for economic stability and national security. The Alaska Highway's origins as a joint US-Canada project stand as a powerful symbol of binational cooperation. The shared effort to build and maintain this road has forged lasting ties between the two countries, demonstrating what can be achieved when neighbors work together toward a common goal. Keeping the highway open and accessible is a shared priority for both nations, reflecting its critical role in supporting security, economic prosperity, and the daily lives of countless people on both sides of the border. Ultimately, the recent crisis has reinforced the urgent need to nurture and strengthen this vital partnership, ensuring that the Alaska Highway continues to serve as a bridge, both literal and symbolic, between the United States and Canada for generations to come. Today, border security is as much digital as physical. The US-Canada border uses advanced tech, license plate readers, biometrics, and radiographic imaging to keep crossings efficient and secure. Cybersecurity is equally crucial. Official websites use CAPTCHAs and other tools to protect vital information from attacks. During the crisis, clear, trusted digital communication was essential for public compliance and calm. Securing both physical and digital frontiers builds public trust and ensures smooth policy implementation. For Alaska, this integrated approach balances access needs with national security. As technology evolves, so will the methods for securing this vast, vital border. The border restrictions were always meant to be temporary and adaptable. Regular 30-day reviews allowed both governments to adjust policies as the pandemic evolved. This flexibility enabled exemptions for unique cases, like Hyder, and kept local needs in focus. Transparent communication reassured the public and maintained cross-border cooperation. The process set a precedent for evidence-based, collaborative crisis management. Gradual reopening was possible when conditions improved, restoring vital economic and social ties. The approach balanced safety with the goal of returning to normalcy. The border crisis transformed the Alaska-Canada relationship, revealing both its strengths and vulnerabilities. While federal tensions rose, regional ties proved resilient, with state and provincial leaders stepping up to solve problems directly. The experience highlighted the need for stronger, more flexible partnerships focused on shared interests. Future priorities include modernizing infrastructure, enhancing Arctic security, and safeguarding supply chains. The crisis shifted the relationship from assumed friendship to strategic collaboration. Alaska and Canada emerged as indispensable partners, tested but strengthened by adversity. The lessons learned will shape a more robust, proactive partnership. The challenge now, ensuring this unique Northern alliance thrives in an unpredictable world.